would be required to present before that board in the community at a time that's convenient for people to attend. All zoning changes would be heard before that community planning board, and I would support the board's decisions. Your opportunity for input, your input should affect the outcome. It should affect how the things ultimately are approved, in what form. Your opportunity for input should not be that 5 minutes in front of the zoning committee on Thursday morning at 10 o'clock, taking off from work, taking off from school, having to get downtown to say what you think before they unanimously vote to approve. It needs to happen here. It needs to happen like this meeting, and it needs to be accountable to your needs. So certainly, yes, that is one of the very first things I will do, and from there we need to go beyond that review and start developing a vision and a plan for the future of the ward over the next 10, 20, 30 years.
Thank you. Mr. Lar, could you pass the mic down?
Yes, I not only support the creation of a community planning board, but I helped fight for it during the last elections. I supported the community planning board referendum early on and had 20 volunteers come out and get out the vote for the referendum on election day. And in addition, our campaign has identified that Dominic's debacle as a prime example of Alderman Stone's failure in our ward. We went out and we talked to many of the people who work there, and right now, if we had a community planning board, this wouldn't be a surprise, and it wouldn't be another empty lot, lost jobs, and lost opportunities for our ward. However, I believe that to eliminate a Band-Aid approach to development that has plagued our ward, it is important to have a community planning board that is representative of the needs of the ward, that really has a mixture of business owners, residents, who will create principles to define our economic success. That's extremely important, are the basic principles that we define in our community. We can't make real decisions right now if we don't have those principles. I would make sure that all business development matters would be accountable and brought forth to this board. And what I would like to do is to institute a 10-year plan with the community planning board's basic principles that includes affordable housing and a thriving and bustling business district. Devon Avenue can be a clean, walkable, parkable, revenue-generating destination for our neighborhood and our city. And I believe with some bold vision, Toohey can be the main street we lack in our neighborhood. It should be the alderman's vision to replace broken sidewalks, untrimmed trees, and empty storefronts on Toohey so that businesses like BB's Bagels can really thrive. It's time for us to really take a look at this and work together as part of a long-term vision and a long-term plan for our neighborhood. Thank you.
Before we go to our final, go to your questions, I have one final question, prepared question for the candidates. If you could bring those questions up, please. It seems to be the general consensus among residents of the 50th Ward, as well as society at large, that good schools and quality education, be it public or private, is a measure of a community's vitality and overall health. The 50th Ward has a number of public schools dealing with the negative impact of overcrowding, and a number of private schools dealing with the negative impact of under-enrollment. With the first question to Mr. Brewer, in your view, what should be the role of the alderman be in facilitating discussions and interaction between public and private school communities, so as to foster a positive working relationship between both communities that adds value to the quality of life in the 50th Ward?
We already have some cooperation today between our public and private schools, as our public schools are overcrowded and a number of the private schools have declining enrollment and excess facility, and we've managed arrangements to try to balance that through renting facilities and spreading some of that overcrowding out to available space. But what we need are real solutions to overcrowding, which is our primary problem with public schools here in the 50th Ward. And we need real solutions, not backroom deals and empty promises. For at least 5 years, certainly before the last election, Alderman Stone has claimed a new school among his accomplishments. So where's the school? CPS says that any new school is at least 4 years away. We need real solutions. And the alderman needs to do the real work to make those things happen. In the 22nd Ward in Little Village, where a new high school had been promised and not delivered over a number of years, Alderman Munoz had to join his neighbors in a hunger strike to get CPS to live up to their obligations. That's the kind of dedication, of commitment to a community, of advocacy for schools that we want to see from an alderman. That's the kind of commitment that I'll bring to our schools as alderman.
Ms. Dollar?
I believe schools play a central and vital role in the spirit of our community. Good schools increase property values, attract new residents to our ward, and most importantly, contribute to the success of our neighborhood and are the key to the prosperity of the 50th Ward. As many of you know, I went to school at Decatur Elementary School, and now I sit on the LSC. And I'm personally invested in our schools because my 2 young sons, Benny and Levi, who will soon be part of the CPS system. Private schools in our ward allow people of faith to send their children for a quality education close to home and in line with their religious beliefs. I believe it's the role of the alderman to fight for our schools, but Bernie Stone has been really slow to respond to the needs of our kids. It's taken over 6 years for the Rogers Park campus to be finished, and it's been taken over 10 years since we were promised that new elementary school that would alleviate the overcrowding in our schools. Currently, there is no plan to utilize the talents and diversity of our student body or to incorporate the community's input into the development of this new school. And I think we have a great opportunity here in the ward to bring these two communities together because we all want the same thing. As an alderman, I would commit to dedicating 1 full-time staff person from my office who will facilitate an educational roundtable from the different schools. This person would also be responsible for reaching and securing funding for both public and private schools. We can be creative about how these dollars are used. I'd like to see more supplemental programming to go towards supporting youth development work currently going on in our ward and for continuing education for our adults so that we can expand their skills to earn more money and support their families, such as computer classes and English classes. And have people from all different backgrounds come together in this fight for education. Thank you.
Thank you. Final word, Mr. Aptow.
I have dedicated my entire adult life to create bridges between different groups and communities. I think that this same approach of inclusion and dialogue apply to public and private schools in the 50th Ward. The goal of both private and public schools is to educate our children, and people who share the same goals should work together. I would hold a meeting of all principals of both public and private schools in order to further a dialogue on educational issues in our ward. Additionally, overcrowding public schools may be available to rent from private schools' classroom space, which may be used to ease issues of overcrowding, just like Boone is renting from Kins. I would like to I would definitely introduce an ordinance or support that to increase the teacher's salary. I will reduce the classroom size, and I will have zero tolerance on the gang activities and drug dealing in the schools. I would like to give the classroom back to the teachers. Thank you.
Thank you all, and that's the conclusion of our section on prepared questions. And now we go to your questions. We have a lot of questions around economic development issues, and I'm going to try to cover at least some of them. Very rich treasure trove of questions here, audience. Do you have any ideas or plans on improving the quality of shopping opportunities at the Howard Western Mall? Ms. Dolar, you get to go with that one first.
What's it going to take to revitalize the 50th Ward in terms of economic development? I know that there are 3 ways in which we can really take a look at this. And first we have to look at the Community Planning Board basic tenets that get developed. Secondly, we can advocate for city dollars with the city of Chicago. We can leverage state and federal dollars, and we can also have partnerships with private companies and developers. This is the key ways in which we can make a difference in terms of economic development. I think for the Howard and Western Mall in particular, partnering with private companies and developers would be the first step. Would be talking with them and making sure that there are some particular different economical and viable ways in which we can propose future development for that area, working with private developers, asking them to work with the basic tenets of the Community Planning Board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. F.
Before this forum started, I was talking to a lady here who brought this issue, and I'm thankful to her that she opened my mind about this issue. Unfortunately, we have an alderman for last 33 years. Most of the time he's sleeping in the city council's meeting. So what else we expect from him? You need a proactive alderman who can resolve your issues. I am a reform candidate. My candidacy is all about empowering people, not empowering the special interests or the developers. There is a program called SSA, Special Services Area. Finally, because of the efforts of Westridge Chamber of Commerce, and I have great appreciation for them and I thank them, what they are doing on Devon Avenue, I would like to involve SSA and Westridge Chamber of Commerce to make improvement not only on Devon Avenue, but throughout the ward. And Western and Howard is one of the areas that I will concentrate. I will have developers, not like the one who purchased the parking lot on Rockwell and Devon in $1. This developer was, when we were there at Chicago Tribune's endorsement session, Alderman Stone claimed that this deal was done 5 years ago. And I interrupted and I asked them, I told the editorial board that 3 years ago that developer was a cab driver. How this deal was done 5 years ago. So these kind of things we are dealing with this current alderman. I have a plan.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Brewer.
If we look at Howard and Western and other commercial sites throughout the ward, what you see is what's left over from businesses that packed up and left the ward. Jewel moved to Evanston, the Dominics at Pratt and Kedzie moved to Lincolnwood, and now the Dominics at Ridge and Damon is leaving. And the alderman does nothing to revitalize those areas, to attract businesses. Well, these good things don't happen by accident. They take hard work, they take commitment, It means going out and recruiting businesses to come to the ward, attracting businesses to come to the ward, and working with them to find sites that fit their needs, to find buildings that fit their needs, and cooperation to bring them in, not to just let sites sit vacant, stores sit empty. We can see right now, of course, that Alderman Stone is the king of the vacant storefront. He's got a sign in every single one. But it really does take hard work. You don't sit back in your office and wait for businesses looking to come and say, where can I invest in your ward? But beyond that, you have to make the ward an attractive place for people to live and businesses to do business. And that means providing the city services, fixing sidewalks, curbs, street lights, benches, having trash cans. It means maintaining the ward and doing the job of the alderman so that we have a community that businesses are willing to invest in and not one they want to abandon.
Thank you. All three of you have talked about replacing an incumbent who's been in office for some time. If there's a runoff, will you be able to support who emerges to challenge the incumbent in the general election? Starting with Mr. Aptat.
Well, I have, here's the acronym, ABS, anybody but a stone.
Mr. Brewer?
Well, actually, I received a letter today from a voter who is supporting another candidate, but said if it goes to the runoff, he would support me if I were in the runoff. Although he also said he would support, the other candidates if they were in the runoff. And the plea was to please, let's focus on defeating Stone. And at a minimum, that's what we need to get out of this. I'm certainly committed to it. I think I've got the most to offer as a candidate. I will, I'm putting as much into this as I possibly can to make that happen. If I were not the candidate in the runoff, should there be a runoff, then I would hope that my efforts had gone a long way towards weakening Stone and making his defeat possible.
Mr. Dillon?
This campaign is really about organizing and organizing the entire community. And we are organizing the community together.